91 Thursday night. The series tied at 3-3. Nothing stays the same forever, but it's rapidly changing in amateur sports.
College sports once rooted in tradition, school pride, and loyalty. But those expectations are changing in a landscape now where athletes have the ability to transfer season to season. Some are painted as disloyal or selfish. Athletes like Haley Van Leith and Ray Davis don't see it that way. Both played at 3 schools on their way to the pros. Van Leith in the WNBA, Davis in the NFL. They say decisions are not always about money, and note, coaches can also leave for new opportunities. Jason Walker reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
The following is an America Matters media production. The views expressed do not necessarily represent those of the station or its advertisers, although we think they should. But that's the opinion of America Matters Media.
Vote for me and I'll set you free.
Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Come together right now over me.
Well, you certainly know what that theme song means by now. That's right. It's time for another episode of America Matters. I'm your host, Leo Zacky. And, well, folks, we got a great interview for you guys today. I'm excited to share. But before we jump into any of that stuff, real quick, I just want to give a big shout out, hello, welcome, and thank you to everybody out there on 93.7 KPGF as well as AM 1060. And, of course, to all those wonderful listeners out there on the Answer Network, the Salem Network, Radio for America, the Kevin Jackson Network, and, of course, AUN Television. Thank you so much for joining us, and a big thank you to all the folks at those stations that are helping get this broadcast out there so you can hear some really great information and great stuff. So I really appreciate that. Don't forget, you can always go to the America Matters Media's Facebook page or LinkedIn page there and share that. But definitely go to the Zacky Radio YouTube or Rumble channel, and also follow us on Instagram and X. And you can also follow me on either of those platforms at Leo S. Zacky. Would love for your follow. We're going to have a lot of great content there. Clips and all sorts of fun stuff. Easy stuff, little bite-sized things that's nice to share with all your friends so you can get them clued in on what's actually going on in the world. So make sure you do that. So, this is America Matters, baby. This is where common sense isn't just alive, baby, but it's finally fighting back. So let me ask you something. When was the last time a politician actually gave up something to serve? I mean, really gave up something. You know, time or money or comfort or reputation. You know, not just a PR stunt or fundraising tour, but real-world sacrifice for the greater good. So today, we're talking to a man who did just that. Andrew Gruel. He is a chef, a family man, and now, somehow, he's a politician. And not just any politician. He's one of the few willing to stand in the fire of California politics and tell the truth. And let me tell you, that system is broken, and it's been broken on purpose. And career bureaucrats have built an empire on confusion and corruption, and it's time to rip that whole thing out and rip it out by the roots. Okay, this is a guy who went from owning dozens of restaurants to consolidating to only 4 by choice so he could focus on his new vision, both culinary and civic. And he didn't get into politics for the fame. Oh, no. Quite the opposite. He got into it knowing full well he might hurt his business. And let me tell you, that takes a lot of guts. And he's currently serving on the Huntington Beach City Council right now. And he's fighting back against Sacramento's housing madness. And he's standing up for law enforcement, and he's restoring what local government has supposed to be, how we want it to be. Lean, efficient, run by people with skin in the game. So now if you're following this show, you already know my take. California's not in a crisis of resources. It's a crisis of priorities. And we've got enough water and enough land and enough money and enough talent, certainly, to be the envy of the world. But everything's broken. And it's being looted by crooks. in suits who want power, not progress. Andrew gets that. So when he talks about why taxes are high and why this homeless industrial complex keeps expanding and why small businesses are getting strangled, he's not theorizing here. He's quite literally living it every single day. So you're going to hear us talk about the fight over housing density, how Huntington Beach is being sued by the state for refusing to stack subsidized housing on beachfront property. Can't imagine why people would want to push back against that. You know, you're going to hear the truth about public safety, restaurant regulation, and why California's food system is under attack from globalist policies that literally reward junk food and punish real farming. I might know a thing or two about that myself. But more than anything, you're going to hear what sounds like someone who's been wildly successful in business, and he chooses public service anyway. Someone who understands that freedom just isn't an idea. It's a fight. And he's in the ring with us. Another man in the arena. So stick around, because coming up, we're going to dig into the real conflict happening in California right now. And remember, it's not left versus right. Okay? It is producer versus parasite. Okay? And Andrew Gruel is bringing receipts, baby.
Joining me now is chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. So, Chef, I'm trying to eat healthier. I'm also trying to drink less, but enough about me. Let's talk about your column in The Federalist. You talk about how in your 20 years as a chef, you've seen the quality of food deteriorate. Why has it deteriorated?
Well, it's just access to good, real foods, whole foods, local foods. So many of the major food manufacturers have really taken over our entire food system and cut out a lot of the little guys, right? Cut out the small farms, the medium-sized farms, and have just created this system in which many times the only options we have are these highly processed foods that are quite literally grown in a lab. And, you know, from a chef's perspective, we're always kind of at the tip of the spear because we're the ones who are creating the trends, and we're the ones that are also getting pumped with a lot of that rebate money from those massive manufacturers and propaganda as well, fake science, to push these products down onto the consumers, and then they pull it back up on the retail side. So it's really been disheartening. And what's so funny about it is that I've been pushing this for decades, and it's been the left. This has been one of their major movements, but now suddenly in the past 5 years this has switched, and this is like conspiratorial or crazy right-wing thinking to talk about actually eating real food and eating whole foods.
We'll be right back with my interview with Chef Andrew Gruel after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
For Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by a Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
1 in 3 adults in America have prediabetes, but most don't know it. To let people know it can be reversed before it becomes type 2 diabetes, professional basketball player Julius Randle is doing everything in reverse.
I'm only dunking with reverse windmills. I drove the whole way to practice in reverse. I don't recommend it. This move's called the reverse shuffle. I do recommend it. And it took me months to learn how to speak in reverse, like this. Years 10 almost for diabetes type 2 with living Ben has mama. In other words, my mom has been living with type 2 diabetes for almost 10 years. So together, we want to say to the 84 million Americans at risk, exercise and healthy eating can help reverse prediabetes. Start by taking a simple 1-minute risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Bet he can't say that in reverse.
Are you shy and don't want to talk on the air? Text us your questions or comments to 775-237-2266. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, we're back with America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky. Joining me right now is Andrew Gruel. He's a city council member in Huntington Beach. You're a business owner. Yep. You've had a bunch of restaurants. You're actively now a politician.
Yeah. This is my first role in government.
What's it like?
It's everything that I was afraid it was going to be. And I say afraid because one thing I learned immediately with government, well, two things actually. The first one's funny, is that as a small government guy and a businessman, when I got into government and started looking at the budget and realized, oh shoot, all of our revenue comes from, I knew it came from taxes, but the lion's share of it is all taxes. It's like there's this inherent conflict of interest because that's why politicians just increase taxes because it's lazy and it's so easy. But when you got to balance a budget, and the first thing people are in my ear like, well, we could increase sales tax. I'm like, never bring that up to me again. So that's funny. But number two is also,
I would fire that person. They're the laziest answer. Get out.
It came from a consultant, which is even worse.
Well, those people are paid professionals being paid professionals.
Yeah, I know. That's another problem. Another conversation for another time. But the second piece I learned early on was obfuscation. The act of making things purposefully confusing so that in the realm of government, it slows you down. When I got in, it was like onboarding, all this information, and then learning about the political landscape and what landmines to avoid and how to be making these decisions. And I quickly pulled back out of it, and I realized that so much of it was just obfuscation, it was fluff. And I needed to get right to the issue itself to make not only my decision-making process more efficient, but ultimately government more efficient, and make sure what are the real issues that matter versus the issues that are really to kind of like please a couple voices. Fortunately, I had the instincts to be able to navigate through that, but now I understand why politicians generally get sucked in and immediately get taken advantage of and end up in politics for so long, and why politicians are against term limits too, is because they want to make the system bigger and more confusing. But the good news is in Huntington Beach, we're actually working to decrease the size of the government and to make it more efficient.
Oh, you mean kind of like how it was supposed to operate?
Exactly.
What a concept. Wow, amazing what happens when you get business-minded people who, I don't know, actually want to do the right thing.
Yep.
I mean, you could have turned down that appointment.
I'll put it to you this way. Being on city council, it does nothing for me in my career, and it doesn't make me money, and nor does it accelerate my career. Actually, people probably hate me more than they did before that, but it's the right thing to do, because otherwise you're going to get just like the career bureaucrats in there who are going to use it for themselves. And we have an opportunity, especially in California, to fight, because we're the only city with a 7-0 city council, and if we can
Republican.
If we can start stacking up all these city successes and show that we're a safer city, we're a more vibrant city, business-friendly city, other cities are going to look at that, voters in other cities, and say, wait a minute, what's the common denominator with that city, and why are they doing so well? Oh, they're all Republicans.
Yeah.
Maybe we should vote for more Republicans.
Yeah, because, you know, the people in San Francisco, they have so many Republicans to point the finger at.
Yeah.
There's no Republicans in San Francisco. That's my point. But you guys have a great city.
Yeah.
I love going down there. I love going out there. I feel safe. I think it's a great environment. It's clean.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know you're just new to the whole thing, but it's a really great part of Southern California. And it's got that Republican government backing behind it that keeps things in line, but it's more than just Republican. It's people that actually should be doing these jobs, and you're sacrificing your time and your business and potentially your income because, you know, people are going to hate you and maybe not go to your businesses because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that you're doing this for the betterment not just of your community, but even just if you want to be a little selfish for your kids.
I'm firmly confident in the idea that our policies are going to drive business to the city, which brings more revenue in, which means we can continue increasing the budget for both public safety, fire, marine safety, which are the important bedrocks of Huntington Beach, keeping the streets clean, making sure that the city ordinances and kind of the general plan of the city supports that agenda. And then the other piece of it is development, right? So we're in a lawsuit right now with the state of California because of the mandates based on RENA and how many houses we have to put into Huntington Beach. They want it to be high density, low-income housing all along the beach, all along the open areas of Huntington Beach. It changes the look It changes the
Right.
feel. It changes the essence of the city. We want to be able, as a city and a charter city, to have the control to determine, I want 15 units per acre, not 75 units per
And
acre.
you want to be able to grow sustainably because,
Yeah.
you know, all of a sudden you bring an influx of people in.
Yep.
Then, and you're not set up for that, it's going to cause issues inside that area. So it's
Yeah.
about smart growth, not just blah,
Yeah.
bring all these people in. And I love the part where you said allow businesses to grow and become successful in there.
Yep.
So wait, you're telling me that if you have an environment that supports small business or just business in general and they do better, they're going to pay you more in taxes so you don't have to raise the taxes to bring in more revenue?
It's quantity. It's all.
Wow.
It's quantity. You know, the cliche in the business
What a
world, which you know
concept.
is sales
Yeah.
solves everything, right?
Mhm.
It's like as sales go up, you don't need to make any operational changes because ultimately your fixed costs become a smaller percentage, and it all goes to the bottom line. And
Right.
the same applies in the city. So we increase our revenue by virtue of an existing flat tax, right? Which we do have a certain flat tax within the business license world. Sales go up, revenue goes up, the police budget goes up, because ultimately business is driven by public safety. Businesses aren't going to open in an area in
Well,
which
they're going to get
not.
broken into
Yeah,
and people won't patronize because they
Yeah.
don't feel safe.
exactly. In 2020, it was a 6-1 city council in Huntington Beach, 6 Democrats, 1 Republican. They were already talking about changing the city hall to allow for needle distribution on floors 4 and 5. They were getting millions and millions of dollars that were coming in from LA super PACs to allow these massive homeless encampments. They changed the city ordinance that was allowing people to sleep on the streets, sleep in public parks. Once it flipped over, the first thing they did was they changed the city ordinances. They empowered the police department. They got rid of the homeless kind of industrial drug complex that was seeping its way in, which is nothing more than a grift, right? It's nothing more than a grift.
Well, that's what they've done is these people in government have found ways to fleece the system
Yeah.
to line their own pockets and their friends and families. I mean, this homeless industrial complex is just the newest development in the way people in power have found a way to launder money essentially out of the government.
Yeah, of course, and they do it in the name of or in the
virtue
lie of public
signaling
good,
and
right? These people, they're homeless. We're helping them. Not the case. There are people who are transitioning who do need help, and we have the Navigation Center as well in Huntington Beach, where we actually house people for 60 days. Then after that, we can move them into county housing. We also get some funds from like Cal Optima and other organizations that help us out. So we offer the opportunity for people who are transitioning to get to the next step, and we help those people. But then there's the gypsies, right? There's 3 people in the world of the homeless industrial complex. The one I just described, then you have the gypsies, right? That are just like the scam artists who
Right.
are kind of grifting off the system. And then you have the drug addicts, right? And you have those who are mentally ill. And if we don't have the power to be able to control those, then we need to get them out of the city. If the state's not going to allow us to help those people the way that we want to, with potentially mandatory help or some sort of program, well, then we just can't have that in the city. And
Right.
we need we have the power as city council members to make sure those people are either prosecuted and put into programs, where rehab programs, et cetera. But what other cities do is that they say, no, bring them all in. Bring in all your weary. They want the fabric of the city to fall apart because then they see that as a way in which they can get more money and continue the grift.
Right. And it's not about doing what's best for the people. They're just doing it about staying in power.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what would they do if they weren't in government?
Yep, and then they scale it.
Right.
Because then they can do the quid pro quo where it's like, look, this changed my life. I'll get you a position too, but you got to do this for me.
Mhm.
And it's not even, and you're right, it is about the amount of money, right? That's incredibly subjective, but it's also about what do you do with the money, right? So generally, and from a philosophical perspective, I see it as anybody kind of center and right of center. Their idea was they get money, they want to build something up. They want compound returns, right? They want to build things. Center and left of center, they want to tear things down. And they want to redefine things through a centralized government. And they want to galvanize that power in the government through things like supermajorities, gut and amend bills, right? Like we all know about the political mechanisms by which they galvanize their power. So it's, do you want to build it up or do you want to tear it down? I'm a build it up guy. You're a build it up guy.
Absolutely. And I believe in giving people the power to create more than anything. Because I believe if you give people the opportunity to make a decision, 99 times out of 100, they'll make the right decision.
Yes, yes. I couldn't agree more.
I believe in people. I believe in their ability to innovate and create. And when you're talking about with the homeless and how you recognize that this is a mental health crisis, this is a drug epidemic, I'm right there on point with you. Like, you're going to love my homeless solution. I can't wait to be able to bring it statewide and help clean up this once and for all, get people off the streets, off of drugs, get them the help they need, and get them back into the workforce where they can be part of our society. That's really my long-term goal. We can talk about that later, but you've been in business. You're a restaurateur. You've got a great history with that. Huntington Beach is known for having a lot of great restaurants. So you're part of that fabric now. Tell us a little bit about your newest endeavor.
The newest endeavor is Calico Fish House. So really, it's kind of the best ofs from all the other restaurants I'd opened over the past 10 or 15 years and putting them in one place. We're on Pacific Coast Highway, just steps away from the beach. We utilize the majority of seafood is either from our own local fishermen or we're utilizing other fishermen from domestic fisheries that we know. 80% of seafood in the United States is imported. We've got to stop supporting all these other countries and farming out our food system because that's a national security issue. We're integrated with the farms. Most of the team that is with me has been with me for like 15 years. I always talk about how like if we're trying to, the culture war and branding and how the right is kind of like lost on a lot of that because they don't create cool brands all the time, and that's what we're accused of not doing. It's internal, right? It starts internal. You need to have a really good team of free thinkers. They all don't have to agree with each other. And that's what I've built up is, like I said, I built up a family, a community, and it is a family-run restaurant. But the idea behind the restaurant, especially being in Huntington Beach, is it's a public square. It's a clubhouse. It's a place in which people can come and feel comfortable talking to others. And it's not about virtue signaling or being there because you're supporting X virtuous cause. It's really just a good family-run business in a good city. Food-wise, we make everything from scratch. We've been... we talk about the beef tallow and seed oils. I've been seed oil free in my restaurants for 7 years, way before all this.
Dude, way to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, well, because we recognized early on what the influx of omega-6s were doing to our diets. And then from a culinary perspective, saturated fats have so much more flavor, so why wouldn't you do that? We switched in 2019. So all beef tallow, seed oil free, sustainable local seafood. It's all the buzzwords. But it's funny, we don't market it as such because it's kind of who we are.
Right. You're about a quality product. And believe me, I'm 100% on board with that. That's what my family was all about, putting out a quality product. We helped pioneer antibiotic-free in the poultry industry.
Beautiful.
When we closed our doors, unfortunately, because California priced us out of competition here, we were the largest organic turkey producer in the nation.
Wow.
So, and my family, my uncle had a Italian restaurant. So I've been around the food industry at all levels, up and down. So when you're talking about putting out quality food and making sure people are, because you wouldn't put anything out there that you wouldn't want your kids to eat.
Exactly.
That's that mindset. That's the human spirit and the love that we have in this country. And a lot of people feel that way. Unfortunately, they're compelled to make these cheaper choices because the way they're over-regulated, all these burdens that come on them financially, and they have to survive in business. Maybe it's a bit easier to get some permitting in your neck of the woods nowadays, but just to get permitting to start a restaurant or a bar, it's like pulling teeth with the city. All the stuff, and by the way, you have to lease that space before you go and get the permits going, and that takes time. And that costs money. So how can the average American who has a brilliant idea or a great concept able to bring that to life when they're choked out like that?
Stay tuned after this commercial break to find out Andrew's response to my question here on Zacky Radio. We'll be right back.
We're talking to Victor from Precision Diamonds. Victor, we have talked before about the fact that you started 27 years ago in Park Lane Mall in a little kiosk. You are now in your own building across the street from the convention center. You've had to do something right.
Well, as we like to think that hard work, you like to think that it does pay off, but you get lucky along the way. You worked hard, you pay attention, and you get yourself ready. So hopefully when the right opportunity comes up to buy a beautiful building like we just have, you triple your size, you cut your overhead by half, and now you know that you're more competitive than ever.
Plus, you've had a chance to use all of the things you learned from that little kiosk in Park Lane Mall.
Oh, man, along the way, I'll tell you, as far as writing that lease check every month, boy, there were times that it was really hard to do, so you learn from your landlords, and it was really great feeling to say goodbye to the landlord. This has allowed us to truly become your local jeweler, your personal shopper.
Thank you, Victor. Precision Diamonds, your local jeweler across from the convention center.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin insulin pump. Call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. 800-432-8150. That's 800-432-8150.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, welcome back to America Matters. And if you're just tuning in, well, you're going to want to rewind this episode here and when we're done, because you missed a banger of an interview. I've been talking with Andrew Gruel. You know, he's the chef, entrepreneur, the guy who could be anywhere else in the world right now, running dozens of restaurants or kicking back on a beach. But instead, he's slugging it out in local politics, fighting the lawsuits, dodging the grift, and doing something most folks in California gave up on a long time ago. Trying to fix it from the inside. I love that. You know, this is what America used to be about. You live in a town, you build something there, you know, maybe a diner, a factory, a farm. You know, when that town's in trouble, guess what? You step up. Not because it helps your career. No. It's because you're eyeing something bigger than that. Because you give a damn. Because you want your family to have a quality of life. Not because you want some book deal, okay? You're doing this because it's the right thing to do. Because you love where you're from. And you love where you live. And you want it to be the place it should be. It ought to be. It can be. It has been. But you got to get in the fight. And that's exactly what Andrew Gruel's been doing. You know, that's what the founders had in mind, too, when they talked about citizen legislators. You know, people who live under the laws they make. They also are the same people who walk the streets with the ones they govern. That's Andrew, baby. That's him. He's not trying to be Gavin Newsom. He's trying to make sure his kids grow up in a city that's not overrun with homeless tent camps, drug zombies, and bloated consultants who get paid six figures to, quote-unquote, solve the problems they never fix. So let me be clear. What he's doing takes more than courage. It takes sacrifice. I mean, this man quite literally looked at his successful business and said, you know what? I'm going to risk it. I'm going to fight for my neighbors. That's rare. That's really rare. And it's sad to say in today's world. But you know what? It's what I'm committed to do as well. Because I know how important where I'm from is, and how important California is, and how great this place is. And whether I'm doing it at a gubernatorial level or Andrew's doing it at a city council level, it's irrelevant. The fact is that we're honest people doing this for the right reason, because we love our neighbors, we love our community, we love where we're from, because we know how great it's been to us. And it's time for us to give back, to make sure that everybody else in those communities can achieve the same level of success, if not surpass us. So you all may know my story by now. You know, I'm a fourth-generation Californian, a former vice president of Zacky Farms, which was the largest privately owned company in the state, a family-owned business, and we were killed by Sacramento's anti-business cartel. I could have moved to Texas or Florida or Montana or Hawaii or hell anywhere in the world, really. And I could have gone silent, true. But I didn't. And like Andrew, I made a different choice. And I chose to stand and fight for my home, just like him. I'm not doing this to make friends in politics. Believe me, they're swamp creatures, and they gotta go. I'm doing this to win back California from the crooks, the ones that have sold it off piece by piece. Because here's the truth. Every inch of ground we take back in California, every business we save, every ordinance we pass that actually serves the people, Yeah, that is a blow to the machine. That's a win for common sense. And it's not just symbolic, it's contagious. And when cities like Huntington Beach lead, other cities take note. And when those cities are ready to flip red, guess what? They will, and the state will follow. But this is bigger than Huntington Beach. It's way bigger than me. It's about proving that the American model still works. And when people like Andrew Gruel show up, when people like you, okay, that's all you listeners out there, support them, when people like me run for office because we want to do the right thing and not have this undying quest for power, you get a positive result. So let's tune in with what makes the Gruel approach work and how we turn this momentum into a statewide movement, because trust me, this playbook is about to scale. So let's continue that interview.
We need to create a much smoother access to capital, right? Like, that's the thing. There's so many great business owners and capitalistic-minded individuals who could grow and flourish and build out and scale and franchise, but the access to capital is only available for the big guys. And that's the problem, and that's where we get to this corporate consolidation. So that's one key that I'd like to see happen more, both locally, state, and federally. And then you're right, they're purposefully pricing out good food because the big guys want to push the little guys out. So the big guys actually fund a lot of this regulation because they want the little guys out, so that then they can capture even more of the market and keep jamming down all that bullshit food into your diet. And my last point is, it's in the government's best interest for us to be eating junk because it keeps the price of food low. You know that originally, when we look at the consumer price index in the breadbasket of America, the way in which they would judge inflation was through things like milk and bread and eggs. And then over time, they started removing those because they realized is that if the consumer recognized how much our monetary policy is actually is hurting us, that they would riot, right? It would be like riots akin to Russia, in the early 1900s. And so they started removing all of those things, and then they got with the food companies to make sure that our food remained the prices remained low artificially, because if the prices actually tracked with what they should be, we would be rioting. A bag of Cheez-Its would be like $20, but they just keep decreasing the quality of the food.
Well, that would be if there was actual cheese in the Cheez-It.
Yeah, exactly. So in order to do that, they decrease the quality of the food.
Right.
The government allows it through things like GRAS, which is the generally accepted, it's a loophole.
Yeah, so you get the food grade waxes and you get all the other,
Everything.
nonsense in there. I mean, I remember learning about this because my family's been in the food industry forever. That they got to tour the Hershey's factory.
Okay.
But there's two Hershey's factories. There's the one they show the public, and then there's the one,
so funny.
and then there's the one that actually produces. And so they have an acceptable allowance for insects in their chocolate, and the amount of food grade wax that's in their product, 95%.
And then all the other chemicals, the soy lecithin, the xanthan gum,
Right, but it's all chemicals. Like
Yeah.
what? Like when you're looking at the back of a wrapper, like on a Snickers bar, for example, it's like what?
Yeah.
It's like, and this is all. It's like, what am I in chemistry class?
And all that stuff keeps the prices low, and the government's okay with that. That's why I say the FDA and the USDA have been corrupted for so many years.
Oh yeah, and I've dealt with them firsthand.
Yeah.
Because it's not about putting out good food
or safety. Or
right?
food
No,
safety.
no. Who's lining their pockets behind the scenes? I mean, dealing with them, it was so frustrating. I mean, here we are trying to make things happen with quality food and making it more available, and they're like, well, we're gonna vote this way.
Yeah.
Or oh well, it's something that we'll have to discuss. But thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah. And as a chicken producer, you know darn well you were up against the big guys who had lobbyists on $1 million salaries who were taking all those lawmakers out to dinner and making sure that the regulations actually were there to hurt you.
And I was a fan. I mean, we were good size, but we were still small. I mean, compared to the rest of them.
Yeah.
And I remember that we would go and invite senators and congressmen to come to our, to have a dinner with them. And I swear to you, every single time they were always double booked. Bad bad assistant or whatever,
Yeah.
double booking me. I can only stay for 20 minutes,
yeah.
and I got to go. And they would leave. And then we started to figure out if we just ordered expensive wine, they'd stay a little longer. So we'd get like a $500 bottle of wine.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wait, we got this wine. Oh, okay, I can stay for that, but
I have
I
one
got to
glass.
go. And then we finish the bottle of wine, like, okay, I got to go. Oh, no, we got another one coming. So we have to buy another bottle of wine. Oh, okay. Next thing you know, they stay for the whole time.
Yeah. That's so funny. That is so funny.
But that's the reality of how our government currently operates, and how they are so willing to sell us up the river.
And so to finish that solution, right? So that's starting from a federal framework that then distills down, right? And it's corrupt and it's centralized to the point at which it hurts all the little guys. If we were able to do that community by community, and we could control that from a city council perspective, right? And we didn't have to hit the requirements of like a USDA facility, but instead we had local health departments that were managing that, and maybe it changed from county to county, and even state to state. Interstate commerce was allowed. We could build from the bottom up. We need to flip it.
Well, California has this notorious habit for setting standards above the federal government. I would like to do the same when it comes to the quality of food here in California. That's something I really want to push for, and I think the best way that we can get there is by making sure that we have an abundance of water so our farmers can overproduce beautiful organic crops where you don't need to invest in poisons like glyphosate,
Don't even get me started.
to keep their few little bits of crops that they have alive.
Yeah.
We can do this with an abundance of water. That's what we're going to do, make sure we hold these standards. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on America Matters. Tell folks real quick how they can come and get some of your great food.
My name is Andrew Gruel. I'm a chef and owner at Calico Fish House, also a Huntington Beach City Councilman, and the executive director of Save the Brave, an organization helping veterans with post-traumatic stress, taking them on offshore fishing trips and a lot of other great activities. Come to Calico Fish House, or you can get any of my content at www.americangravy.com, and you'll find everything else on there. But we'll definitely be able to continue this conversation later.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Leo Zacky. This is America Matters. We'll be right back.
In times of market volatility, it can be a good reminder to revisit your financial strategies to make sure they align with your goals. Call 775-674-2222 or visit nvretirementplanners.com. Advisory services are offered through Nevada Retirement Planners, an investment advisor in the state of Nevada. Any insurance products and services are offered through Nevada Senior Advisors. Nevada Retirement Planners are not affiliated with or endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any government agency. Nevada Retirement Planners does not provide legal or tax advice.
At A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, we've been accomplishing happy feet for over 30 years.
We offer a various range of shoe styles and sizes for both men and women. From all-season shoes and orthotics to work boots and safety shoes, our professional and reliable staff possesses the knowledge to help you find the proper shoes to fit your needs. Hard to fit? Hard to find?
A Proper Fit Footwear is here to give our customers happy feet. We make people aware of potential foot problems as we're sizing their feet, suggesting the right arch support, and guiding them to the proper shoes for their needs.
Stop by A Proper Fit Footwear at 4001 South Virginia Street in the Reno Town Mall today, and allow the owner Mike Jones and our fabulous staff to find the perfect pair of shoes tailored to your specific needs.
A Proper Fit Footwear in the Reno Town Mall, the home of happy feet, where comfort and your feet meet.
Can you define the 4 different parts of Medicare? Do you have Medicare prescription drug gap coverage? At Nevada Senior Advisors, we will walk through the different parts of Medicare, including Medicare Advantage, Medicare Supplement, Part D prescription drug plans, to help you determine which option is right for you. Visit nvsenioradvisors.com, call 775-674-2223 to set up an appointment. Nevada Senior Advisors is not affiliated with or endorsed by the federal Medicare program or any other government agency. Calling this number will direct you to a licensed sales agent.
Want to expand your advertising dollar? Sponsor this or any America Matters program by calling 775-827-8900, extension 2. Now back to the show.
All right, folks, welcome back to America Matters. I'm Leo Zacky, and if you've stayed with us this far, wow, great, because you've heard the kind of conversation you don't get on the corporate media anymore. That's for damn sure. You got a real one. No teleprompters, no talking points, just two men who love this state, love this country, and are willing to risk everything to save it. Andrew Gruel could have stayed in the kitchen. He could have expanded his brand, he grown his business empire, stayed out of the mud, but instead, he decided to put on the gloves and he jumped into the ring. Not to gain anything, but to give something back. So selfless. What a concept. To protect the city where he's raising his kids, to preserve the community he loves, and to stop the rot before it swallows everything whole. And like I mentioned, that's a very rare thing to do. And it's exactly what our founders envisioned. You see, America was never supposed to be run by career politicians. It was supposed to be built and defended by people like you, like me, like Andrew. People who know what it meant to earn every dollar. You know, build something from the ground up. Understand the cost of failure because, well, they lived it. Think about the difference here. You know? Andrew Gruel, a man who's run dozens of restaurants. He's paid his rent, he's paid his payroll, his workers' comp, his insurance. He's battled food costs, he's survived lockdowns, he's fought for his staff, and now he's sitting on city council trying to explain to bureaucrats who've never run a lemonade stand why raising taxes is not a solution. And that's the disconnect that we're facing. California's problems aren't complicated, okay? They're just deliberately ignored, and the people ignoring them are cashing six-figure checks while doing it. Homelessness? Well, guess what? They've turned it into an industry. They don't want it solved. They want it managed. That way the consultants keep getting paid, the NGOs keep getting grants, and the politicians, they get to virtue signal while the streets rot. Isn't that wonderful? How about crime? It's the same deal. There's chaos that equals funding. Police get undermined, cities do to fund the beat cops, and private security firms, well, they get richer. And those same politicians responsible for the mess, they get to hold a press conference pretending to fix it. How about the water? Oh my God, don't even get me started, okay? California's been handed the absolute, hands down, greatest agricultural zone on Earth, okay? And Sacramento's been draining it like a clogged bathtub for decades. I mean, it's embarrassing. They cried drought while dumping billions of gallons into the ocean. And they act like desalinization is some fringe conspiracy theory that's going to take too much electricity. We'll never be able to do it. It's an impossibility. You know, all while other countries like Israel or United Arab Emirates get the vast majority of their fresh drinking water from the same practice. Oh, and here's the kicker, folks. It's all by design. This isn't mismanagement, okay? This isn't a strategy. Break the system, blame it on climate or equity or market forces, and then come in with the next round of bureaucracy and budget bloat. That's what they're doing. This is their plan. These people aren't trying to fix anything. They're trying to feed off of it. They've turned government into a racket for multi-billion-dollar feedback loop grants, consultants, fake metrics, cover-ups. They don't want to clean up the mess. They are the mess. Now let me tell you why this hits so close to home, okay? Because my family ran Zacky Farms for 90 years, okay? Almost a century. We were literally the largest privately owned employer in the state. We produced the highest quality poultry in the country. We led the way in antibiotic-free. We were the largest organic turkey producer in the nation. We were the largest poultry producer on the West Coast. We fed millions of families across California and across the country and even around the world. And we were crushed. We were crushed by taxes. We were crushed by labor mandates. We were crushed by environmental regulations written by people who've never seen a farm in their lives. And that's what I knew. We were dealing with incompetence. We're dealing with intent. These people want to destroy small business and hand the state over to mega corporations and non-governmental organizations. And that's the playbook. Squeeze out the producers, flood the zone with dependency, and rule over the wreckage. So I had two choices: walk away or step up. And I chose to step up, like Andrew did, like so many of you listening are ready to do. Because if we don't do it, who will? Now, I've met these people in power, and they're terrible. They don't care about you or your business or your family. They love being wined and dined. They love telling you to have a fundraiser for them, and, well, they're just in it for themselves. But I want you to think about what you just heard. You know, one man on one city council was able to block needle distribution centers, kick out the homeless industrial complex, empower the police again, and clean up a community that was circling the drain just 5 years ago. Imagine what happens when you multiply that by 100 cities, and then 1,000. That's why I'm running for governor. Not to manage the collapse, but to end it. To rip out the rot, give Californians a chance to build again. Not just survive, but actually thrive. To restore the promise this state used to offer. Where hard work meant something, where your kids could walk to school safely, where opening a business wasn't a bureaucratic nightmare. Where government simply just stayed the hell out of your life unless you asked for it. But I can't do this alone. This isn't a one-man mission. It's a movement. And if you're hearing my voice right now, you're a part of it. And here's what I'm asking. If you're angry about what's happening, good. Use it. Channel it. If you're tired of waiting for someone else to save you, stop waiting. Be the one who shows up. Run for your school board. Volunteer at your precinct. Start a parent group. Open a business that refuses to comply with their lunacy. Build something that lasts. And build it in the open so they know you're not afraid. And if you're ready in this fight, if you're already doing this, then double down, baby. We got the numbers. We just need the muscle. Political, financial, spiritual, all of it. Because this isn't about left or right. This is about builders versus looters. It's about the people who create and the parasites who regulate them into extinction. And it's about restoring responsibility, reality, and results. You don't have to be perfect. You just got to be present. And that's what Andrew taught us today. That one person can make a massive difference when they lead with courage and don't back down. That standing up, it comes with a cost, of course. But the reward is worth pursuing, and it's for a future worth passing on. This is our moment. We may never get another one. So get in the game, folks. Go to leozacki.com. Sign up. Donate. Share the episode. Tell your neighbors the truth they've been waiting to hear. Because California, it ain't dead. I mean, it's being murdered in broad daylight, but the only way to save it is if we rise up and throw the bastards out. I'm Leo Zacky. This is America Matters, and I'm asking you to be like Andrew. Be like me. Be the reason we win. Let's get to work. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see all of you next time.
Look who's here now, celebrity chef. That's important. He's a chef. His name is Andrew Gruel, and he's joining me in New York. Andrew, in my lifetime, I've gotten a lot of advice from the government. Don't eat too much salt. Don't eat too much beef, fat, soda. Just stay away from it. Now we're being told that maybe packaged food should be stayed away from. I'm getting fatigue. I'm getting food advice fatigue. Is that justified, do you think?
FAF, food advice fatigue. I think it's a thing now. You just nailed it. So yeah, I am. I actually have the same fatigue. I think that generally speaking, the government should completely get out of our diets altogether, and they should stop making recommendations. But I think that that's actually what RFK Jr. is doing here is that he's saying, look, we've had this kind of corporate capture and control for the past 20 years. The government has doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size. We've only gotten sicker. He just named those numbers, how much money we spend on this. So he's saying, let me put together one consolidated report. 69 pages isn't that big. I mean, our dietary guidelines are 500 pages. You need an instruction manual to go to the grocery store nowadays. So I think we need to make it intuitive again, and all those things that he brought up there, Peter Doocy did, those are kind of commonsensical things, right? They're very intuitive. Like, let's get some of the chemicals out. Let's look at the certain types of foods and how highly processed they are, the phones, all of those things. As a father of four, I see it.
But it politicizes food.
Well, it doesn't necessarily politicize it from my perspective until we get to that research. Now, we can argue about that when the research comes out and then how they use the research. If they say, well, here's the mandate by virtue of this 69-page report, I will disagree with that. But I think that consumers have their own agency, right? And the government has constantly said to us, this is what you need to do, A, B, and C, instead of giving us the research and letting us make decisions for ourselves. So we're at that stage right now where the verdict is still out. I want to be able to make the decisions for myself with clean and clear research and evidence.
Fair enough. On our show recently, we had Bar Rescue's John Taffer. He joined the program and he said, fast casual dining, that is the best performing sector in the restaurant industry. Fast casual. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, fast casual is, of course, grown. Anytime there's economic uncertainty, fast casual goes up because people are trading down from fine dining and casual dining. Now, we should define fast casual versus quick service. Fast casual is when you go up to the counter, you get a number, you sit down, they bring you your food. It's kind of this flex casual service model. Quick service is really fast food, McDonald's, Cava, Chipotle. Sometimes people define fast casual as Chipotle. I don't. So fast casual is always going to go up when there's economic uncertainty. But I think that really what we're seeing here is a lot of casual dining chains, legacy chains that are going bankrupt, and people are retrofitting those into fast casual models. Fast casual restaurants cost about 40% less to build out, so you need less capital to build it out and less labor, generally speaking. If you really want to understand the market, go on a state-by-state basis, because labor cost is ultimately what's going to be driving all of these restaurant changes. Now, I'll say one thing, if you want to look into the future in my pick, we're going to start to see, I predict this here, we're going to start to see a new model where you're going to have retail, restaurant coming together as one. Grocery type stores with healthier foods where you can sit down, have a beer, get a meal, get a sandwich, all in one. Because everyone's going out now to buy their food at in the retail setting. Restaurateurs are going to say, hey, let's grab some of that and put it all in one.
You mean a grocery store?
Grocery store restaurant.
That has a bar and a restaurant in it?
Yeah, you got
Something
it.
like that?
You got it. I'll meet
for investors. Let's go.
Well, it's not me yet, but now that we talk about it, my prospectus is no. I'll meet you there. We'll have a beer and we'll buy some groceries.
But actually, I've seen that. It's in Florida. What's that? Land to Sea or Sea to Land? What's that chain? But that's what they do. You walk in, it's high-end stuff, and they've got a wine bar, they've got a beer bar, they've got cheese and crackers and God knows what. And there's the checkout for the grocery store. What was it? What's it called, Chrissy? Sea to table. You ever heard of that?
Well, there you go,
Very
right?
famous.
And guess what? Florida doesn't surprise me, because in the less regulated states, that's where you see the innovation come about.
Yeah. Sea to Table is famous in Florida for defying the COVID rules. And a big supporter of Trump. They're very famous down there. Andrew, thanks for joining us this morning. You've got interesting stuff. We appreciate it. Thank you.
For one nation